by Coro and Trey on that game winner. But Vuce had 22 of his season-high 35 points in the paint tonight. Was that kind of by design, or did that just happen naturally with him doing all the damage in the paint?
With obviously the guys that they had out, we did try to get him the ball there in around the basket a little bit more to see if they would double, and if they didn't, he would be able to play. He got it kind of in a lot of different areas. He got it on some post-ups. He got it in the pocket. Got it on the offensive glass. So, we needed his points tonight. It kind of, we felt like with the way they were playing defense, as aggressive as they were at times, from the weak side, that if we could get good spacing, we'd be able to find him and he could make some plays. Even if he wasn't scoring, I thought he also made some really good passes too.
Matas, you had that quick hook on him in the third, and then he didn't play in the fourth. What was the thinking behind those two moves?
Yeah, no, I think, a couple of things that we addressed at halftime that we needed to do a better job of. In particular, there was a couple on the glass, a couple help side, responsibilities. That happens. And then to be honest with you, I took him off first, but I didn't think that starting unit particularly got off to a really good start in the third quarter. We were up by, I think, 9 at the end of the half. And that group didn't play well. I think I subbed 4 guys pretty soon after that, you know what I mean? And we just needed to find some energy. And I know the back-to-backs are hard, mentally and physically, but we got to be able to do that. And I think for Matas is a young player, we got 3 and 4, having to go to Brooklyn, and then towards the end of the month you got to play, Indiana, Miami twice. So, these things are going to keep on coming, and we've got to be able to mentally stay focused there. But to be honest, in the second half, that first unit didn't play great. I thought in the second half our bench unit were the ones that really did a really good job for us, and they kind of got momentum back in our favor, back in the middle end of the third quarter. So, I was just really trying to find some energy in the game, especially with the way we started the third.
In kind of regards to his minutes there, what do you want him to learn from that type of situation? And when you're pulling him like that, is that more driven by wanting to teach him like a lesson in terms of how he's playing, or just needing to kind of figure out what works in terms of winning? Yeah,
I mean, I know. I don't know if I love using the word like teach him a lesson. I'm not like trying to be vindictive at all. I just think that there's a standard of play, and that with an understanding that there are going to be mistakes, right? But like there's certain kind of mistakes that are good, and there was a couple possessions there early for him where he needed to come over and help, and he wasn't there. Okay. And, there was a couple blockouts things that didn't happen. And, one of the things we had talked about, coming out of the Houston game was, the rebounding and the fouling. And he's one of our longest, biggest athletic players. And I know there's going to be some size discrepancies at times, but just the being in there and fighting and battling. And, I didn't like the way the first 2 minutes went. I got him off early, and then pretty soon after that, I took the rest of them out. And I think what you're trying to do as a coach is trying to get a group to play to a certain standard and to a certain level. And I think for him, the learning experience is, to me, of going all the way back to today. You go back to the time that you woke up, and how you get yourself prepared and all those things. Because that game against Houston was incredibly physical. They're big and strong, and it's everybody. I'd say it's our team, because we're going to have more back-to-backs coming. We've got to be better, quite honestly, in the back-to-backs. In terms of the focus and the concentration. Even when your body's dragging, probably a little bit, right? No one's going to be 100% feeling their best. That's part of it. But how do you really mentally lock into that? And I think the hardest thing for young players is going through the back-to-backs. I know when talking to Kobe and Patrick, even in Iowa a couple of years ago, they said that was the hardest adjustment for them. So it's not so much teaching him a lesson, but there's certain things he's got to mentally hold himself accountable to and responsible for, not only for himself, but for the group and for the team, because we're all kind of relying on each other.
Whenever you talk about accountability with him, it feels like you're kind of pointing to examples that are on the defensive end. Is that true? Is he normally getting pulled for defensive mistakes, or is there also an offensive element to it?
No, I mean, and again, I don't want to make it seem like, sometimes with the way the game is going, you have to make some changes in the game. And I know he was the first person I subbed, but it's not even about me yanking him or pulling him. I came back to him again, pretty soon after that, and that group was not great, and then I was just trying to find. I left the second unit out there for a long time. I thought about actually closing with the second unit, but I thought it was probably too many straight minutes for those guys coming off a back-to-back, and we, brought back Kobe and Trey, and, Isaac did a really good job defensively tonight, made a great play at the end of the game, but, that last couple possessions, I put Kevin in there, just for some shooting if they were trapping or doubling Vuce or Kobe. So, again, it's for Matas as a young player, you also as a coach got a responsibility of the other guys too. You know what I mean? And I don't want to make it seem like it's all about him, because it's not. Because he's done some really good things. He's gotten a lot better. And I feel like my responsibility is to challenge him, to be better in those moments and be better in back-to-backs and, figuring out ways to really come and play. Because it's hard. I mean, the games are hard and they're physical. And especially with a guy this is not last year where he was playing 8, 9, 10 minutes. The back-to-backs were a little easier. You play 30, 32 minutes, 31 minutes, and now you got to come back and do it again the next night. That's hard, and these are the growth opportunities for him, and I said this before, I just don't know if you just want to just start handing out minutes for the sake of handing out minutes, as much as you also what's going on in the game. Got a 9-point lead. That evaporated pretty quickly. And listen, I've always said this, I'm going off my gut a lot of times, and I'm not always going to be right, and I'm the first one to acknowledge that. But at that time, watching it, I felt like I needed to do something. Not towards Matas, but just the way that whole unit started the third quarter.
Billy, I want to ask you about Vučević. He's in around 40s, somewhere in his 40s or something. But you see all these young guys, Markin, I guess, was ill. Guys got soreness and tightness and all sorts of stuff going on. He back-to-back, playing big minutes. What do you see in him that, with all this stuff going around in the league, and you mentioned many times, guys are out, teams have guys out all the time. It seems like he's never out.
No, I've got and it was interesting because I think Vuč was even trying to talk to Matas during the game, about the focus and the detail in a really good way, and I really appreciate him doing that. But I don't think Vuč gets enough credit. Knock on wood, I hate saying this, but I mean, he plays, and I have such respect for him because I get a chance to see him every single day. He's in there, he's working on his body, he's lifting. Talk to the medical guys before, the back-to-back, and we had practice. And they really didn't want to do a lot of contact. They thought we could get some running in and get up and down, but they wanted to eliminate the contact. So practice is over with. You know where he goes? He's up on the treadmill running. He doesn't need to do that at 35 years old. And I think that even for someone like Matas, who's young, who feels like, hey, I can just bounce back, or any young player, to be around him to see how he prepares is really invaluable. And I thought DeMar was great at that when he was here in terms of investing. But to your point, Sam, he plays. And you know what? He fights through stuff. He doesn't always play when he's 100%. He gets himself ready. And again, at his age, dealing with Adams and Sengun all last night, and then coming back after that and responding the way he did tonight, I think speaks to how professional he is.
I don't want to use the cliche old school, but it seems like he has a character that he wants to play. I don't want to indict all these players.
Right.
But is there something different in him that he has that character and that motivation that I'm going to be out there no matter what?
Yeah, I know what you're saying in terms of comparing it to other people. I do think for him, and again at 35 and being in the league as long as he has, I think a lot of guys at that age, and this probably from being around the great Bulls team, there's almost like a rite of passage that no matter how I feel, I'm putting the uniform on and I'm going out there. And I think he has a lot of that to him, where he feels a deep responsibility to do his job, regardless of where he's at physically. Now, I'm not saying anybody's going to put him in harm's way, but if he's not feeling great, he's going to find a way to get himself ready to go play. And I have such admiration and respect for that. And I do think we have a team, for the most part, that guys try to fight through things. I don't see guys bailing or not wanting to play. I think we got a group of guys that really try to play. And listen, there's times the medical guys pull them out and say, listen, you shouldn't play, But I got great respect for how he tries to keep himself prepared every day.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Billy. We
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Yep, thank you.
Pretty hectic, obviously. Great hustle by Ice on that. Try to get the ball in the offensive rebound, the shot. Save the ball from out of bounds, and then threw to Trey, and Trey was able to somehow keep his balance and see me open on the rim. And he actually threw quite a great pass. It was a dart right in my hands. I just didn't want to ruin that play and made it. So, it was great effort by both of those guys to keep the ball in bounds, and Trey was able to get it to me, and I was able to make the layup, which got us to win. But that play kind of felt like summarized the whole game. It was, there was a lot of up and downs throughout the game, a lot of kind of careless mistakes we made, turnovers, defensive coverages, and things like that. But overall, happy we won. We found a way, which is most important. But obviously, we understand. It's going to be hard to win playing like this.
It was a key of you and the bench tonight, wasn't it?
Was it what?
You and the bench tonight, wasn't it?
I mean, it was a team effort. I think everybody did their part. I was able to get going early on and late, but a lot of it was just from us playing good team ball, good movement with the ball, without the ball. I was able to get some of my favorite spots in the pocket of pick and roll, of handoff, different two-minute actions we had, and so I was able to convert. But yeah, I thought I feel like most of my points came from us just playing good team basketball. It wasn't like I was playing ISO and just going one-on-one.
We've asked you about kind of the clutch shots a few times now. You've hit quite a few game winners this season. What are you feeling in those moments, kind of when the clock's running down?
Just to trust the work I put in. I mean, tonight I won't classify it as a great game winner. I mean, it was obviously it counts as one, but to lay up right on the hoop, But I mean, I'll take it. Definitely. But just try to just have the confidence yourself. Take it as any other shot you would. But just from all the work I put in daily and been doing for all these years, just it's pretty much it. Just have the trust in all the work you put in, and you want to come up big for your team in those moments. It's the ones you always dream of when you're little, when you play in your backyard or whatever. You're imagining you taking shots at the buzzer and all that, and so when you have a chance to do it and it goes through, it's one of the best feelings.
Your coach laid a lot of compliments on you after the game about your professionalism. You're always ready to go, no matter how you're feeling back-to-backs. I mean, could you just talk about being pro, especially at the age that you are right now?
It's the basic of the job the base of the job we do. You have to be professional. Have bad games, good games. Sometimes you're going to score, sometimes you're going to not. You're not going to do it, but you have to bring it, every night. Back-to-backs are part of it. But yeah, I take a lot of pride in being a professional, staying ready, doing my work every day. It takes a lot of time off the court, the preparation to stay ready. The recovery, the work, the film, the studying, all that. It takes a lot, but it's what I love to do. Basketball is my main passion, and so try to be the best version of myself I can for be out there, especially for my teammates, and especially in the situation I am, being the oldest guy on this team, being the veteran, try to lead by example, trying to show, the young guys the way. So I'll take a lot of pride and try to stay as consistent as I can. I think for the most part I've been able to do that, and I thought, tonight I knew it was a big game for us. Last night was a close one, tough one. Long flight, you get home late, but you got to go again tonight. That's just the way it is in this league, and I'm glad I was able to help and get us.
Do you see that rubbing off on any of your teammates? I mean, Billy talked about the way you take care of your body, and the stuff that you put in with that, the calm that you're talking about in clutch moments. Do you feel like that's rubbing off on some of your younger teammates?
I mean, I'm sure it does. I'm sure that they watch what I do, and a lot of them do ask me questions, but I think a lot of them do watch what I do, and I think it's to me, that's how I was learning when I was younger.